Does rope angle change the weight? Let's investigate. First, let's talk about pulleys. The rule of pulleys is that the rope tension on one side of the pulley is always the same as the rope tension on the other side of the pulley. And that's true no matter what angle the rope is at. In some of my last videos, many of you said that the rope angle would change how heavy the springs were. And while I just said that that's not true, one thing that is true is that depending on the angle of the rope, the vertical and horizontal components of that force change, which can affect how you experience the exercise. Here's what I mean. Let's take an example of serve a tray seated versus, say, high kneeling. So the angle of the rope is a little bigger when I'm taller. Now, we can assume that the carriage travel is the same, about 12 inches, and on a single blue, that means the rope tension is about 14 pounds. If I'm seated on my butt on the carriage, the rope angle is about 14 degrees above horizontal, whereas if I'm high kneeling, the rope angle is about 33 degrees from horizontal. We've already established that the rope tension is the same for the high position versus the low position. However, the horizontal and vertical components are different, so the amount that I have to push and the amount that I have to lift. Seated, the horizontal force of this rope tension is 13.5 pounds, whereas high kneeling, it's 11.7 pounds. So that means it's a little bit easier to push when you're in the taller position. Looking at the vertical forces, seated is 3.4 pounds, and in the taller position, it's 7.6 pounds. So you can see here, it's actually harder to lift from the taller position. So yes, the feel of the exercise does change depending on whether you're lower or taller. But I would argue that in the grand scheme of things, this has a very tiny impact compared to other programming choices that you make. In this particular example, the difference in stability between seated and high kneeling actually has a much higher impact on how my client experiences the exercise than the slight change in the horizontal and vertical components of the rope force. So why am I doing the math here? It's not because I need you to achieve a certain number or that I'm expecting you to do your own calculations for every exercise. In fact, I'm not doing math when I teach Pilates either. I'm sharing numbers because I think it's important to demonstrate the real relative impact of certain programming decisions we as teachers make during a session. Your understanding of the forces in a Pilates environment is vital to the impact that your session is going to have. If you don't understand what's happening, you're just leaving the impact of your session up to luck.